I'm here for filling in for Jason Langendorf. Everyone's probably going to dislike it because, Jason's the man and he's the master editor and he's just like a wonderful human being. And I'm bald and inadequate. But we're on with Ryan. I would say Ryan Johnson's a famous director, but I'm so scared to death to say Ryan's last name because I know my dyslexia is going to say it wrong. Ryan, you're one of my favorite boxing writers. You're an amazing human being. Ryan, why don't you introduce yourself and talk about what you do at the Good Fight?
So yeah, Ryan Sangalia over here. What do I do? For the most part, I write. As people say, oh, what are you meant to be doing on this planet? And I'm meant to be a writer. So for all the good and all the bad that goes with it, I write about boxing for the Good Fight.
Well, I think you've had also, like, let's plug at the top. You've had some really interesting articles right now. I mean, I was very dismissive of Pranga. I didn't really see that as a competitive fight. You wrote a very good think piece on that. You've been doing some good articles. Why don't you just at the top talk about a little bit about some of the stuff you've been doing for this amazing site and this collective of great minds?
It's interesting, like the way that we've been so used to like just output in the past. So like the good thing is now that we don't have to do that. Like I can just kind of like write, about stuff that actually interests me. So yeah, I was at. I think that was my first story for the Good Fight was, when Christian Prenga. So a little bit of background. So I also like I train boxers. So one of the guys I work with, a guy named Adam, he was one of the main sparring partners for Christian Prenga. So I actually had a pretty like good like front row seat to see how he was doing and what he was working on and so that was actually kind of fun. And then I think the last things I was doing was what was it when Zufa was in town, and that was actually kind of fun. In some ways because I was just all right. Let me just take all my preconceived notions and everything like that. Let me write about what I'm actually observing. Forgetting the headlines. What do I see with my own eyes, right? And so yeah, that was kind of fun. They were in town and it was just nice because I grew up, I'm from New Jersey, but I lived a lot of my adult life in New York City, right across the river. I still live in Jersey. And, just it felt nice for like a week to have boxing back in New York because, I really got spoiled with boxing, especially like at the club level. And we don't really have that anymore, for whatever reason. So, yeah, that's what I was writing about, most recently in the Good Fight. Yeah,
Well,
what's up?
can you talk about a little bit of that because it's like Hitchens is an interesting figure, Berlanga's an interesting figure, Jaleel Hackett's an interesting figure, and also just like New York is an interesting like backdrop. I played the Spider-Man video game. I slung around New York City. I tried to, I went to Hell's Kitchen. Tell us about kind of like what that meant and kind of the context of the lack of shows there.
Well, the funny thing you talk about Spider Man, where I lived for most of my adult life was in Woodside, the Queens, like so Woodside, Astoria, Sunnyside. That's basically where Peter Parker was from. I think they were actually filming one of the movies when I was living over there. I forget which one. But yeah, no, Hitchens and Berlanga, and Hackett too. I know Hackett. Let me tell you one thing about all those guys. They're all super nice guys. Like whatever they say on like television and like and on the screens, that's all BS. Like they're actually really nice guys and really humble dudes. So shout out to them. But yeah, that was New York. So I actually I was spoiled because when I first started writing about boxing in like 2006 or so, the Lou DiBella was doing the Broadway boxing shows like every like other week, so it was kind of fun. Like there was a local scene and there was a community, and yeah, that feels like it's like kind of dying out because now if you're a fighter in New York or New Jersey where it's expensive to move your career because of how expensive insurance is and all the other costs that go with being a boxer. Um, a lot of these guys are going down to Colombia to build up their records. Instead of like you'd have your first few fights in front of your hometown, and then eventually you get like a national TV fight situation. That sort of model's sort of been broken. So if you're not an Olympic gold medalist, it's a wrap for you. You're basically on the road, and there is no local scene.
I glorify like the key trough era. That's like my golden era, the Sergey Derevyanchenko's and the key troughs of that. But I think that the Barclays Center used to be a hub for boxing. And I feel like you were one of the people that really gave the world the insight to that. When Barclays Center mattered, when Madison Square Garden mattered, when Austin Trout beat Miguel Cotto, you were one of the voices that really echoed that.
Yeah, it's funny. I remember that whole situation because it was I was there that night, and I'll tell you a funny story about that. I remember Austin Trout, Canelo Alvarez was actually backstage, and they were planning to do a thing with Canelo and Cotto if Cotto won, right? And then when that didn't happen, Austin Trout, is the winner. Like Austin Trout always like to say, like the city, like the fish. Austin Trout. Um, and I remember Canelo leaving, out the back door as that happened, because he was like, yeah, well, a bunch of money just went down the drain right here. So yeah, no, I mean, it's unfortunate. I really do miss that era of boxing, and the PBC era. I felt like we had like one last hurrah with that when Danny Garcia did his last fight over at the Barclays Center against Danny Gonzalez, and a lot of the crowd was there. Like who was there? Who would I say? Like like a lot of the guys that were from that era, like Andre Berto and stuff like that. A lot of people flew in, and everyone just hung out. It felt like the end of an era, like one last hurrah for the PBC, kind of era at Barclays Center. I'm sure Barclays Center will, of course, have they just recently had a big fight, a couple weeks ago, but it's it just feels that like the era of that just constantly being a place where boxing happens. Yeah, that's over with. But I'll tell you something. I was there when Barclays Center boxing first started, and it's definitely a different vibe than Madison Square Garden. It was a lot hipper vibe in some ways, but the Garden is the Garden, So it's. But I actually miss. I'll tell you the best venue for boxing I ever been to in the city was actually the Manhattan Center where DeBella used to do his Broadway boxing shows. I really missed that. I'm sure it was a very expensive place, but that was fun.
Want to know a fun fact that no one cares about?
I'll probably care, and that'll kind of mess up your whole thesis
God
on.
damn it. Stop caring so much. Cop, stop caring so much. I was there as auxiliary media on my own dime to see Danny Garcia fight Eric Morales at the opening of the Barclays Center because I
I was
thought it was going to be a historic. Well, but you were sitting on the, I'm sure you were sitting on the floor. I
there.
was sitting in the nosebleeds, but I flew out on my own dime because I thought it was going to be a historic moment in the sport because I thought the Barclays was going to be the new MSG.
Yeah, I mean, I remember a couple things from that night. Um, I remember being at the weigh-in, and this guy said a bunch. Like, Angel Garcia was saying some crazy stuff. He was like saying, "You see his body, Eric Morales. His family doesn't love him. That's why he looks like that." And then Garcia hits him, and he did with the left hook, and it was like the weirdest 360 because he hits him with the hook. He goes this way, he goes that way, and then he goes back. I never seen anyone else get hit like that. But yeah. So and also, I believe that was the night or the day at that weigh-in where Adrian Broner and Paulie Malignaggi had their like little stare down thing where they like they're talking shit to each other.
It was like the abs. Look at my abs. Look, I'm ready to go. Look at my abs. There was an abs.
I think I actually had a similar showdown. Me and Kevin Ioli showing off our abs. So it was actually I like to think that that was sort of the vibe that Barclays Center had at that moment.
I like that. I like that, bro. You don't even want to see that. I'm trying my hardest to keep this golf polo on because I feel like if I take it off, there's going to be a lot of people turning off. But I want to ask you the first because everyone that tunes into the good fight obviously knows about we do 3 rounds, all that stuff. They already know this stuff, so I don't have to explain it. Keyshawn Davis, Devin Haney. The situation is weird. We're speaking to an informed boxing fan, right? We don't have to spell it out. They've been watching the stuff. What's your take on this?
I mean, a couple of things. You know, it's interesting you bring that up because, like, Bob Arum's what 94 years old. That's a man who really like. I guess as you get older, you don't give a shit anymore, and that's really him, because the way he just like was calling out, he's like, "Hey, we try to make the fight." You know, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, that's pretty nuts. You know that you would hear that from someone like him, but I don't know what the deal is. I know Keyshawn is I think they call him a Ring Magazine ambassador or something like that. I don't know exactly what that means.
Can
Uh,
we get into that? Like, what is like? Does that basically just mean you're allocated a lot of money?
I don't. I assume you get. You know, you're gonna get some money. Turkey's gonna throw some your way, but I don't know what that means. I don't know what we don't know what discussions have been had with Keyshawn and what he expects that fight to generate. Um, it sounded like a pretty decent amount of money, especially when you consider that I don't think that's a pay per view fight. And if you're making like 7 figures for that, you know that's not a bad fight. That's not a bad opportunity. So I truly don't know. Uh, I come from an era where it's like you say you want to fight. This is the way that things are being made. This is the process, and if you're not going to take the fight, don't engage in the purse bid. But whatever. I don't know what you don't know. I don't know. No one knows exactly what's being said. So I don't want to jump to conclusions, but it doesn't look great, for Keyshawn Davis. But at the same time, like I don't know what the finance what we used to be able to predict about the finances of boxing. They mean nothing now that Turkey just has an unlimited amount of money, and he's just like, hey, this is what I'm going to pay you for this, and yeah, no, that's better than going to a purse bid.
Let me add my stupid editorial, which isn't great. Is I first off, I think you're a great writer,
Hey,
and maybe I'm an okay writer or
I'm
whatever.
not by
And if
yourself.
someone was like, "Hey man, I'm gonna give you a lot of money," and it went to purse bid, I'd be like, "Cool, do it. I'll do it. I'll take the money because that's my job." So there's a part of me that's like, okay, you're at this high level of your job and there's an allocation of money and it's like a lot of money and you can do a lot of fun stuff with it. I don't like it. But then Keyshawn employed one of the greatest boxing managers of all time, James Prince. So I'll never doubt James Prince because he's historically one of the greatest boxing managers of all time. I find it a very boxing problem of this is a very interesting 50-50 fight that we don't get to see. And it reminds me of, and Ryan pushed back if I'm being wrong, because I feel like I'm being Max Kellerman, but not as polished. Does this feel like Shakur Stevenson versus Frank Martin back in the day?
um this is in what way would you say that it's like that? Like, could you
I was
explain?
excited for that fight at that point. Like in
Oh, okay, like it's not
2023,
happening.
before Edwin De Los Santos, there was rumors of Shakur Stevenson versus Frank Martin. And it was like that would have been a scintillating matchup at that moment. In 2023, that November date, that would have been great. And it feels like this is a fight that could be like, okay, either Devin Haney's the top notch guy of his era, or Keyshawn's being like, you know what? F the dudes that were before me. I'm skipping the line. It felt like it was like a moment in the sand, and instead we're gonna get a bunch of mid-ass fights in between.
Well, this is the thing. First off, you need to seek help if you were excited about that fight. Like that's
Well, that's already given, you know. I
that's
mean,
next
look
level
at me.
boxing addiction. You know what I mean? Like, I thought that I was nuts. But you need to seek professional help. But um, we don't know. Here's the thing: like, for all we know, Keyshawn Davis could be waiting for this guy Turkey to be like, "Hey, all right, we're not gonna do it this way. Okay, then here's the money. Yeah, take it or leave it. This is the purse." And that may actually wind up being a better financial fight for Keyshawn Davis. I don't know what the upside is otherwise, like what that goes in terms of like, I mean the economics of boxing have been totally like just thrown on their head. I don't know what makes. Like, I mean, what we used to know about how money is made in boxing and how purses are generated, that's all gone out the window at the highest level because they got this guy Turkey Al Sheikh who can just be like, all right, here's $10 million for you to fight this guy. I mean, he's throwing out some crazy purses, for guys like Anthony Joshua to fight someone like Christian Prenga. So I mean, who knows how much that fight could be worth, not to the market, but to Turkey Al Sheikh. That's what my guess is. If I'm just like in wrestling, what they say, shooting from the hip. That would be my guess. Is that because I don't think that Keyshawn Davis, I no, don't get me wrong. I think that's a 50-50 fight, and I think that Devin Haney absolutely could win that fight. But I don't think that Devin Haney uh, presents the sort of like, oh, the kind of threat that I'm gonna knock you out and destroy your brand. You know what I mean? So who knows what he's being told? I have no doubt that some boxers are don't have a middleman when it comes to speaking with Turkey Al Sheikh. That's I don't know how else to say that.
Well, I just think that like I'm not a trainer, and you're a very smart boxing guy, and I'm a somewhat smart boxing guy. But there's like a middle ground, right? Where you have to. I guess there's three grounds. You have to be a reporter. You have to understand what's really going on, and then there's like reading between the tea leaves. And like this situation is like just complicated. Is the best way I can put it. Is like it doesn't fully make sense to anyone, and you have to just kind of decipher it for the best that you can.
Yeah, I mean, time will tell. That last fight for Keyshawn Davis against Wu Nahir Albright, um, that was a good win, for him to kind of just put that aside. But that's not the level of fighter where that's not the level of matchup that Keyshawn Davis should be in, right? And I haven't seen anything on the schedule really for Top Rank yet. Like, I don't know if Top Rank has another show scheduled for the zone. Um, so if he's going to be getting paid like the money that I think that he can generate for his talent level, maybe he thinks that there's another way. And we're in a weird time where the sanction bodies, yeah, they kind of matter, but they really don't as well. So that used to be the way to make fights. You have to wait for the WBC to put their blessing on it. But you see guys now, they're when Riddick Bowe threw the belt in the trash, that was a big story. Now it's happening every other week, I feel. So the belts mean less than they have at any other point. So maybe he's saying, I don't need to go the sanctioned body route. There's another way to make this fight. And you know I mean, I've spelled it out in terms of my suspicion about where I think the money would come from to make that matchup. And they're just wait. They put the bat signal out. I feel, and you know, waiting for Batman to show up with a suitcase full of money.
Curveball. Who would you pick in a fight between William Zepeda and Abdullah Mason?
Oh, that's a tough one, man. I don't. I really. You know, that's a really tough one. I might go Zepeda just because I think that Abdullah Mason has better, like what we understand as boxing skills. Like he could win a fight from the range, but I think that he falls in love with a little bit too much with his power and tries to bang out, and that doesn't work towards his best interests. And I think that if you get sucked into a fight with Zepeda, um, he can push that pace. He can close that gap. He can wear you down. Um, yeah, that's what I might go with Zepeda. I mean, what about you? I mean, and Gail, and
Well,
I agree 100%. You know, belts do matter at a certain level, but I think that when if they're getting in the way of certain people who don't want anything to do with the belts and they're going to give you money, I think the money matters more because I talked to a few people who were signing with Zuffa and stuff like that, and they're like, yeah, the belts are cool, but I can't eat a belt. So yeah, no, Lukey, I'm sorry, what were we saying, man?
nah, it's all good, man. You're the rock star here. I'm just simply the host. Um,
You're just saying that because I got my bass right here, so I'm like,
play a sweet lick.
no.
Give us a sweet give us. Hey, can I request a song? I want "Smoke on the Water" by Deep Fruit.
Smoke on the
Can
water.
we get that right now? I'll mute my mic.
My
Let's
thing
do it.
isn't plugged in right now though.
Ah, that's a shame.
That's
I
actually
like
one of
that.
the easier songs to play though. So actually I do appreciate you not making me do some Jaco Pastorius or some shit like that or Primus.
Yeah, well, look, I'm a nice guy, but I want to smoke on the water. I want to smoke on the water. But look, Abdullah Mason's dad seems like he's cool with me. He's hip. He's cool. He's young, and I've enjoyed his story. You know, I'm torn in this fight because I love Abdullah Mason because he got knocked down and he picked himself up and he didn't complain about it. And he did the thing I love where like a fighter does an interview with their mouthpiece in. If you want to hit me in the feel spot, do a post fight interview with your mouthpiece in and you're going to be Uncle Lukey's favorite fighter. And he did that, and that's like I just love that stuff. Zepeda crying, basically winning a world title, also hits me in the feel spot. So it's like that is just I don't know who wins it, but it's like a battle of two people who have deep emotional investment in. Like I love that Zepeda cares about belts, and I love that like it matters to him to win a belt. And then at the same time, I love that Abdullah Mason has passed every single test that we've asked of him. And then like he beat a Albert Bell who probably beats world champions, and that was a fill-in opponent. He got knocked down twice and like he didn't really complain about it. He won a world title against a really solid guy. I mean, this is just like the best. Is it hyperbole, Ryan, to say this is the best fight in boxing?
Um, I think it's definitely a good fight, and a matchup that actually makes sense in terms of that would be fun to watch. I don't know if it's the best matchup. I would watch that. I'd watch the shit out of that. Uh, you know, I uh, I think that Abdullah Mason. I don't know how long he's going to be champion, right? But I know that every fight that he's going to be
I'm
on
gonna push back on that. You're a coach, right? You coach a lot of great fighters, and you're very knowledgeable. Break down why you say what you just said.
I think that Abdullah Mason has a lot of physical gifts. He's a very strong puncher, and he has ring IQ. He actually sets up his punches really well. The problem is that like if you take someone like Shakur Stevenson, I think the only things that's going to beat Shakur Stevenson is Father Time, because he's so smart and he understands who he is. I think that Abdullah Mason, he's too eager to be sucked into a fight for no reason. He doesn't need to be. I think that sometimes he squares up a little bit, and as a southpaw, that's the last thing you want to do. You want to like I think that someone like Shakur Stevenson, who has that long jab, knows how to maximize his length and his reach, and then take that step back and land that counterpunch. A guy like that, a lot of people can't deal with that because it's not, oh, you hit me, I hit you. Shakur Stevenson uh, basically plays make it take it with boxing. Abdullah Mason is more two-way traffic, and that's a lot of fun. But there's only so long you can fight like that. But I mean, that's not to say that, oh, I don't think Abdullah Mason is a great talent. He is. Um, I think that he's an exciting fighter sometimes to his detriment.
Well, I'm cheating on the test right now because Ryan's a real boxing coach. I'm just like a bald guy that looks cute, you know. So we want to get that insight. Gail in the chat said belts versus paychecks. It's business versus legacy. Next time we need to see some sweet guitar licks teed up.
I play the
Okay, so
guitar, I play the bass. I mean, but you know, that's all I do on Twitter. I don't even write anymore. Barely, I barely write anymore. I'm just playing
no,
bass.
but you put out good stuff. Like we are, I'd say the good fight is putting out some of the most enjoyable content that we have seen in some time. So now I want to switch the topic to you on a new subject matter, which is fighters' health. You know, we've had Dino Thor, we had not Dino Thorsland, Raven Chapman obviously had a health issue. Obviously, Lee Reeves, which hits close to my heartstrings. I went and visited him in Toronto, and I know no one really cares because it's like it's a big deal for me. I was in Toronto, and I'm like, hey man, who's in a boxing gym? And Lee Reeves was there, and like you see a somewhat world class boxer, and it like makes you feel good. But we've seen some health issues come up with boxers, and I wanted to ask you, as someone that trains boxers, but like we always get these issues about boxers' health and safety. Where do we weigh in at this point on this subject matter, given these current circumstances of boxers basically doing GoFundMe's or kind of crowdsourcing ways to be healthy?
Um, this is a subject that actually is close to my heart because I can't tell you how many times I've wrestled with the subject of whether boxing is defensible. Because I always say that boxing saves many more than it destroys, right? Because, like, for instance, myself, like, I was a street kid. I was in and out of juvenile detention as a teenager, and it was boxing that actually helped me get my direction in life, and it's taking me around the world. So I have obviously I love boxing. There are some things about it I don't love, and the reality is this: I know people talk about fighter safety and this and that. There is no safe way to box because you're still getting punched in the head, and even when you're winning fights, you're still getting punched in the gym. A lot of the damage actually happens in the gym, which is why I don't believe in these gym wars. And I always tell people, like, all my boxers, I'm like, you don't win sparring. All right, we're there to work on our stuff. We're not there. Oh, we gotta outwork this guy, do this, this, and this. Now, sometimes that is part of it because you have to. Sometimes it takes some conditioning in order to instill that competitiveness in fighters. But for the most part, I don't believe in this stuff. Oh, go out there, let's bang out, and because the guy gets to the fight and then he's already fucked up before the bell even begins. You know, I've lost some friends to boxing's the worst part of boxing, which are the ring deaths. Oscar Diaz, I don't know if you remember him, but
I do.
yeah, I remember he fell into a coma against Delvin Rodriguez. He was a friend of mine. Patrick Day, I knew Patrick Day as an amateur.
Well, how about this? Charles Conwell's like my nephew. So it fell on the opposite side. I always respected Patrick Day because I heard New York guys respect him. And then Conwell is like my nephew. So
Yeah,
it's like Patrick Day's gone, but then what does Conwell think?
Yeah, no, and that actually, I remember Joe Santoliquito wrote a really great story about that. I think he got an award for that one. Um, but yeah, Patrick Day, was someone I knew well, and I actually am an associate producer on a documentary called On the Line, which talks about, partially about his life, and his unfortunate passing. So yeah, no, there is no safe way to do boxing. You're going to have um, you're going to have risks that are inherent to the sport. Um, and when people talk to me about, oh, how can we make boxing safe? Well, the only way to make it safe is to ban it. And that's it. There's otherwise, there are going to be people that are going to get hurt. They're going to get injured. They're going to die, unfortunately. Um, but as a coach, this is the way I feel. Um, if I have to stop a fight because it's not safe for my fighter to continue, I don't care if he speaks to me ever again. Like the classic example would be Joe Frazier with Eddie Futch, right? I don't think it was. I think Yank Durham was already dead. Eddie Futch, when you know, the 15th round, he wouldn't let him out for the 15th round against Muhammad Ali. And Diego Corrales. This was another thing with Diego Corrales, and you're from that area, Northern California. Who was his trainer? Diego Corrales, his stepfather.
Well, that's my guy. That's Ray Woods. I go to his gym, man. We'll FaceTime. One time I'll get the little phone going and it's family. Well, you know what you should say? It's just part of the family.
Yeah, no. So like for me, like even if the boxer never speaks to me again, I'm stopping that fight because that's the one way to actually show that you care about someone. I in the amateurs, I've stopped fights twice. One was a friend of mine, Alessandro, when we were in Greenland. He wasn't feeling well heading into the fight. He got sick, leading up to the fight, and I after the third count, I walked up the stairs, and then the other time was a kid. What was his name? Shahid. He was actually a guy who had to be carried into the ring almost because he was so afraid of going out and fighting this guy. And after the first time he got a count, I told his coach, "Yo, go stop the fight now because he's gonna get hurt." And to his credit, yeah, he went and stopped the fight. And then I was about to go and stop the fight when Austin Pelicte fought against Jason Maloney. But the second time he went down, the referee stopped the fight. But I was already, inching towards those steps because he just didn't have it that night. But yeah, no, the best way to show a fighter that you love him is you stop him, you stop the fight from going too long. And I think it falls on the coaches. Coaches sometimes they don't want to have that on their conscience, or they don't want to like be like, oh, like they saw what happened with Mark Breland and Deontay Wilder. They don't want that to happen to them, and they'd rather the referee make that decision for them. But for me, I don't give a shit. Don't talk to me ever again. But I'm not going to get hurt because it really is one fight. One fight can end everything. You could in just one night you could be completely undone. And so I think that if there is a way to make obviously medicals and Larry Goldberg at Boxing Insider had some great articles talking about how the Ali Revival Act contains, or the Senate version at least contains some verbiage that could make it less safe for boxers by not requiring the medical, the MRIs and everything like that keep boxers safe. But for me, the one thing that we can change is coaches have to just be on point, and if they know their fighter better than anyone, better than the referee, better than the commentators. If you see something you don't like, and the guy's not responding in the way that he needs to be responding, you stop that fight.
Well, I'm down with Gabe Flores Sr. and Gabe Flores Sr. is down with me. and I'll tell a story for whoever cares. Is Gabe Flores Jr. was beating the brakes off a guy. And I remember looking at Senior and going, man, this messed up, bro. And he stopped it. And I get that sparring's not the same, but it was about a week and a half out from a homecoming fight, and they did mitts for the end. But it's like when it's over, it's over. And I feel like when the fighter knows it's over before anyone else knows it's over. If you get what I'm saying, and they're the last to admit it. And I remember in that moment, I kind of understood that in 2018, where I was like, man, this guy's getting the brakes beat off of him. And I think that's the hardest thing to accept as a coach. And that's probably why I've never wanted to be a coach, is to just say, my guy's just not ready for this moment.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I mean, but here's the thing that people don't, because everyone sees what happens on fight night and all the lights and the TV and everything like that and the excitement there. But um, just as there's one night where the fighter and the coach are up on the stage in the ring, um, there's so many more nights far away from cameras. At least that's how it used to be. Far away from the cameras and all the fanfare, and you're in the gym, and you could bullshit other people, but you can't bullshit your own coach because your coach knows what's going on because he's been there with you in the gym a million times before. So that's why I think the coach has the and don't get me wrong, sparring and fights are different because when you're getting hit without those without the headgear and in the smaller gloves, things happen, you know. But yeah, I put it on the coaches, and I'm not blaming the. I know these two incidents happened where recently where someone was hurt. I'm not blaming the coaches. I don't want anyone to think that, but that's just in a general way. That's the way to make boxing safer. Is the coaches have to make sure to keep their fighter healthy and go out there and if a guy is taking punishment and he's not responding the way that you're used to seeing him respond in a positive way, stop the fight. And you want I tell a fighter if you want to go out there and get hurt, you do it with some other coach. Don't do it with me.
I think there's also an element of like, we're all kind of messed up. Like, we're all kind of messed up, right? Because we like boxing. And there's like, you're going to endure a certain level that most people won't do. Like, if you're a boxer, you're like, yeah, Ryan's a good coach, but I'll go find Johnny so and so because I can get a 10 grand fight against this 20-time national champion. You know, I feel like there's like this weird business model to pro boxing that kind of enables that.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing is that like you know there are only two things that are real in boxing, right? It's because Mike Tyson even talked about this. Mike Tyson was saying that the all the accolades and everything like that, that's just ego. My take on that is the two things that are real in boxing is the money you're making and the punches you're taking. And so I understand, it's a business. You got to go out there and get paid because why else are you going out there and fighting? You have a family and everything like that. With if you take away the money, it's just a weird hobby to have, and where you're getting life altering punishment and damage. I can't tell you how many people I knew from when I was like a teenager boxing, and then they went on to become pros, and they don't talk the same way anymore. They have personality changes, a lot of different things. I can't tell you how many people I knew like that. So, yeah, no, I don't fault anyone for going out there and getting their money, but because otherwise, what are you in it for? Like if that's the case, then just go out there and be a gym fighter. But for me, I think that people have to understand that these are human beings. They aren't cyborgs. They're not, this is not video game, shit. Those punches mean something. And once the credits roll and you go on to the next program, that fighter is still living with the effects of what happened. We get to wash our hands of what happened. The fighters don't.
Okay, we're going to our last segment, which is probably the best segment. A bunch of people are like, "Man, I've tuned in for this." For this, Trinica Johnson versus Dina Thorsland. We got a bunch of good fights. Aaron McKenna against some guy, I can't pronounce his name, but on YouTube, everyone's like shitting on me for not pronouncing the guy's name when I would genuinely go to a high school class and I'd want to see if anyone could pronounce his name. And then we got Callum Simpson against Troy Williamson, which honestly I could pretend that fight didn't happen. But Ryan, you're a boxing guy. Let's start with kind of the MVP fight card. It's on ESPN. We got a bunch of good fights on that. What's intriguing to you?
I mean, I think that Chernika Johnson fight against Dina Thorsland is really interesting because um, that was sort of a matchup. It's actually weird how fate happens because obviously Dina had some health issues and she had to vacate her belts, and then Chernika steps in and gets this opportunity and then becomes undisputed. So it's like all of these things happened, and Chernika was the one who really benefited from it. So now it's like now that Dina Thorsland's back and she's ready to rock, we get to see who really was, who really is the best fighter at bantamweight. So this is an important fight. I like this matchup a lot. Um, what I, from what I understand, this might be the last of these fights where it's an undisputed title fight at bantamweight because uh, I forget which belt it is, but one of those belts is about to become vacant. And I think Shira May Patricio is going to fight for one of the vacant belts. I forget it. I think it's the
Out to our
WBA.
girl, Shara May.
Yeah,
Very
no,
talented.
super tough. That whole family they can fight, But
Shout Linden, you know.
Lyndon, Landon, all of them.
And don't run a fade with that family. You're gonna get messed up. That's the wrong plate. That's the wrong team to get into a gas station with.
Yeah, that's a brutal fight. You don't want to get involved in there. But I was talking to the father yesterday. Actually, he mentioned it to me, and I believe it's in November that Shira May will be fighting for one of those belts. But yeah, no, I think it's great for women's boxing that they have this platform. With MVP, Jake Paul is a fighter. I can take him or leave him, but he has some inventive ideas in terms of getting attention for women's boxing. I know you just wrote another story about Tam Tebow, is it?
Yeah, she's an interesting figure. Lots of misspellings and stuff. But I did it.
Whenever I think of whenever I hear the name Tam Tebow, I think of the former Florida football player. You know what I mean? Like
Tim
who?
Tebow.
I think of Tim Tebow. Like first couple times someone said Tam Tebow, I'm like, huh? Pardon? Who's he? I remember he played baseball. I didn't know he was boxing too now. But shout out to him because I'll tell you something. He's from the Philippines. He was born and raised. No, he was born in Manila. So you know, he yeah, he's legit in the streets, of Manila.
Look, I love my Filipino people, man. Shout out my guy Ben Baptiste. Shout out everybody, man. I love everybody. If you're a real boxing person, I don't even care if you could be a nerd.
Well, that's because
I'm just
here's the
down
thing.
with it.
You can't walk the streets in NorCal if you don't mess with the Filipinos. You know what I mean? So if there was any Filipino slander, I'll put the word out. You know what I'm saying? I got cousins. I used to live in the Mission. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm lying. I lived in south of the Mission District. But I go deep in the Bay. All right, I went to third grade over there. All right, so Um,
I mean, shoot, you mess with me, but like, I
I'm
mean,
not,
shoot, I got jumped over like the stupidest stuff. Like
because
on AC Transit, I got beat up over like, hey, you look like that guy. Like
who
that
did they say you look like? Tell me. I need to know.
the guy like you shot my cousin.
Oh, I thought they were gonna say Freddy Krueger or something like that. Like
That'd be
without the
awesome. No, like I would have been down with that one. It's like you look like
shout
the
out to
dude that
Robert
stabbed.
England.
Yeah, you look like the dude that stabbed my cousin. And I'm like, no, I really didn't. And I
But
just
you
for
just said
all
that.
law
But you
law
told me off the
enforcement
air you
purposes,
actually
like I
stabbed
really
your
didn't.
cousin.
Like,
So you
and
deserve that because you did stab the guy's cousin. You told me so. I mean,
by the way, let me break down this AC transit politics for people that really want to know this because this is super fascinating. So you're either in the front or the back of the bus, and people are talking to you. Either like you're not in the same area, but there's like tension. And then if you get off the bus at the same time, it's like, God damn it, I gotta fight him. So it's like you're not in the same jurisdiction. If you go to the same area, it's like you got to fight on the AC Transit. AC Transit's messed up, man. You don't want to fight on the AC Transit. So you're either in the front of the bus or the back of the bus. And anybody that knows anything about the AC Transit knows they had arguments with people going like, "Oh, you got into my cousin," and you either be in the middle of the bus, middle front of the bus, or at the very back.
well, let me
And
tell you
that's the
something, man. I'm gonna give you a Pinoy pass. Okay, like you have your bus pass, you have your train pass. You got the Pinoy pass. So, um, that is good for one pass on if you had beaten up someone's cousin. They'd be like, you know what, Ryan fucks with you, so we're not gonna jump you. So just let them know because they're probably a second or third cousin of mine. Because somehow it's like Kevin Bacon, you know what I mean? Like we're all kind of connected.
7 degrees. Okay, I'm gonna tap into that one. I'm gonna tap into that one. So, like, I'm thinking Dina's gonna beat Trinika Johnson. What are you thinking, Ryan?
That's a tough call. Janika Johnson's really turned the corner in her career, and because before, we always knew her as the person who got that really terrible cut. And she went sort of viral for that. But turned out to be a pretty good fighter because Sharetta Metcalf is not easy work, and she looked really good in that victory. Um, if you know, and Gail, of course, in the chat, she mentioned exactly what the health issue was that she was pregnant and that's why she vacated. I haven't seen her recently. If I was going to bet on what I knew about Dina Thorsland before, like haven't seen her, I would have picked Dina. But I think that's sort of the wild card on that. Gail also is mentioning that this yeah, and of course, yeah, sure, Metcalf was 41 when Johnson beat her, but I feel that female athletes actually age differently from what we usually like there are some female athletes that are in their 40s that are still at the top of their game. So I just feel like that's at least my observation. I don't know anything about endocrinology or whatever is analogy, but I do understand from what I've seen like friend of mine Maureen Shea is in her 40s, she's still going, like she'll tell you she's in her prime right now. So I feel like and maybe that's part of it is also like a lot of the female boxers of years past actually started later, so maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know, but yeah, Dina Thorsland. Let me look at. Yeah, she does have Thor in her name, so
I
that's
just
that's
feel like
gotta make
she's
sense.
an accurate puncher. Like I feel like every fight I've seen with Trinika Johnson, she kind of smothers her work, and she's really about being physical. And Dina Thorsland was kind of that pro bellum era where no one really watched women's boxing. And she's a really, who I compare her to, and it's a shitty comparison, is Mikkel Kessler. Accurate puncher, catches you, but
Danish.
everyone overrates you or underrates you. And I feel like Dina Thorsland's just going to fly under the radar and people are going to be like, wow, she's really good. But I feel like she's a really accurate puncher. And Trinika Johnson kind of plays into her strengths.
Yeah, I just want to see how, because like you said, the physicality. I want to see how she can handle that over the course of 10 rounds. Um, I have a feeling that that fight may have been a lot different if they were doing 3 minute rounds for that one. Just because I think that actually would favor Trinika. But Dina is a world class operator. That I gotta say. Um, Looking at some of these comments here, Gail talking about Marvin Samodia is having a blast taking in the culture in Dublin. Let me tell you something. I knew Marvin. You know how long I know Marvin? Marvin used to come to my apartment building in the Philippines. The guy who owned the gym where Manny Pacquiao used to train up in Baguio, he actually was my neighbor, so we hung out a lot and stuff like that. And Marvin worked for him. That's how he met Freddie Roach, because Freddie Roach would have his camps up there, and he took a liking to Marvin. I knew Marvin before he spoke English, and I always tease him. Like, we always have a joke. Oh man, I used to like you a lot more before you know how to speak English. Now I know who you are. That's my guy right there, Marvin. Great coach, and helps me out a lot actually. Like, that's such a life hack to have that as your buddy. Like that, whenever I have a question, like I can hit up him. I hit up Buddy McGirt. I hit up John Scully. Whenever I need guidance. Shout out to Marvin. But yeah, no, like you said, Dina has a lot of technical advantages. Trinika, physical advantages. Let's see how it works. That's why they fight the fights, as they say.
That's why they fight the fights. Let's do that. Let's punch at air and stuff. Um I'm pretty excited about that, other than going to a funeral, which is gonna be very intense, but I'm gonna bring my A game to it, and I'm gonna bring the fun into the funeral. Any other fights on this undercard? Chicken Metcalf against Amanda Galle is a fight that matters a lot to me because I like Sheretta Metcalf. She's obviously a great fighter. And Tam Thibault fighting Desley Robinson. That's kind of like on brand for the good fight. We kind of hedged our bets with that one. We got two stories on that one. Any other fights? Do you see any storylines on this main card?
Like you mentioned, Shredder Metcalf, chicken. People are, I think we're quick to write her off for what happened with Chinika Johnson, but that last win she had over Rosado, that was a nothing. That Rosado, yeah, was a prospect still, but she was a really, really impressive prospect. So yeah, I'm curious to see how she does with Amanda Gaye. She's from Mississauga. You want to talk about a place where Filipinos are? Mississauga, Ontario, Canada, right there. Like, listen, you know, I rock with the Montreal, Canadiens. Shout out to Canada, but Mississauga, where Amanda Gaye is from, a lot of Filipinos. That's going to be an interesting matchup. You know, I just think it's great that women finally have like a. Who would have thought that back in the day you couldn't get women's boxing on TV for nothing? Now the only boxing that is on TV is women's boxing.
Hey, shout out to the women, the strong women. In the chat, Gail, obviously Gail is always supportive. Desley Robinson versus Tam Theobald is going to be a banger. Marvin Sabudio having a blast in Dublin. Hey, we have a Filipino mayor in San Diego, first Filipino mayor in a U.S. major city. Is that true? I guess that's true.
I mean, that depends. Is Daly City a major city? Because
Not, I
they
don't
don't
know. I
okay.
mean, okay. Take that pass for a spin, Lukey. Metcalf was 41 when she beat Johnson. Nina Hughes is 42. Thorland is literally has Thor in her name. Irma Garcia is a champion at 45 years old. Can you imagine being a world champion at boxing at 45? That seems like a very hard career path. I'd be ready to start to slow it down at that point. Emma Dolan is a clown for losing to Irma Garcia, is the next comment. Note that both MVPW and co main event have the ring belts in play. Shaw Metcalf swears the fight with Sugar Nuke shouldn't have been stopped. And we have a heavyweight Dinair Pero on the MVPW undercard. And my guy Bob Santos trains Dinair Pero. I love Dinair Pero. Um, any of those comments from the chat mean anything to you, Ryan?
Yeah, no, you know, should, should the Metcalf fight have been stopped with Neeks? Yeah, I was there. You know, it wasn't her night. But Taya Gloria, you know what? That San Diego, right there. Well, San Diego is another place a lot of Filipinos, and they have some really good Filipino food. I trying to remember the place was that I liked. It is somewhere near like the Little Italy area. Um, but Daniel Piro, very talented heavyweight. But it's like there's always something. You see these guys that are really talented. There's always something, like I remember there was that fight down in Philly where he got dropped. And there's sort of like some questions about him. But when you're a heavyweight and the money that they're throwing around to fight anyone, like holy shit, my homeboy Mariusz Wach making some crazy amount of money, to fight the Tyson Fury. I mean, hey, this is the time to be a heavyweight, man. You're getting paid now. So yeah, no, just like how it was with me watching Christian Prenga on these random cards in New Jersey. Who knows? Maybe Daniel Pero will be in a big fight. Because for all we know, they may milk this heavyweight road to glory Tyson Fury versus Anthony Joshua tune-up tour for however long. So yeah, no, that's sort of what sticks out to me is watch for Daniel Pero because for all we know he'll get a big payday
for sure. Aaron McKenna versus the guy I can't pronounce his name. The result is going to come out at some point when I probably am not watching. What are your thoughts on this fight?
I mean, I think Aaron McKenna is like he's ready. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, like he's sort of in that weird, like, I mean, he's fought guys that you need to fight in order to get to this moment. This is a sort of manageable next step, because he's fighting for a vacant belt. So I don't think that we're going to get all of the answers that we need about Aaron McKenna in this fight with the Italian guy he's fighting, but I expect he'll win because he's fighting a guy that and here's the especially at those weights, even you don't have a lot of knockouts, everyone can punch, so you don't want to get hit by these guys. Like they always say, middleweights are like they move like welterweights and hit like heavyweights. So very dangerous in those weight classes. Yeah, I expect McKenna to shine in this fight. And I don't know if he stops this guy, but I think he'll outpoint him and he'll get a belt, and then that's a big chip to have right now, because the division is sort of in flux with everything that's happened with Johnny Beck and someone stepping up and winning a belt and and having a run with it. You could really define the division at this point. It's not like it was back in the day when you had to worry about running into Golovkin or someone like that who's going to burst your bubble and everything's going to come falling apart. He can kind of define this division. He's still young. He's he's got deep background in amateurs, and he's got skill to burn, and he's exciting to watch. So my pick is McKenna.
Okay, Yale getting us with the facts. Both coming off a long layoffs. 469 days for McKenna, 339 for Olia. I just feel like there's a talent gap there. Olia is like a reflexive puncher. McKenna is someone that in 2018 I watched a lot of him coming out to the Conor McGregor song on Golden Boy undercards, groomed to be like a future star. I've seen him in the top ranked gym. He's really good. Olia seems like the random European dude that just gets a number one or number two ranking and then just gets smoked by a good fighter. Ryan, you're smarter than me. You give me your thoughts.
Yeah, that's more or less what I see it as. Like I don't want to generalize, but the little I've seen of Aaliyah kind of reminds me of like a John Luca Bronco. You know, like you said, those guys that because for whatever reason the sanction bodies have to rank guys. Even if they fight only in their hometowns. You know what I mean? In places that don't really have boxing at that high level. I do think that there is a talent gap. You know, McKenna has had the right path to get to this moment. Like, I feel like you can't be ready, even in a vacant title situation, unless you fought someone who's been to the dance before. Liam Smith is someone that that was a good win. A guy who has a lot of experience. And what I liked about him in that fight is that he beat Smith more and more as the fight went on. I think that actually is what you want to see from a guy who's getting ready to make that jump to the championship level. Um, Aaliyah, I don't know you know, uh, how much baseball they have in Italy and Germany. But there's a saying, you can't go um, from double A ball, pitching double A ball, and then start in the game one of the World Series, and that's sort of what Ali is trying to do here. So I think that we'll see something like maybe 9-3 kind of decision, for McKenna, and then I hope because obviously he's fighting in in Dublin, and a lot of those fights have been in the UK. I'd like to see him take that belt and bring it to the Garden, where there's a big Irish population in New York. I'd like to see him fight in Boston. I'd like to see him do sort of what they had done with other champions, Irish champions, you know 20 years ago, where they would have them and fight in the greater diaspora, uh, Irish diaspora, for those fans, because it's one thing to to fight in front of your hometown, and that's great, but they already know you. Become a world champion. And I'm getting ahead of myself, a little bit, but I actually think that there's a lot of business to be done with McKenna.
Okay. And final talking point. How much do you care about Troy Williamson versus Callum Simpson?
Uh, how much do I care? Like,
Yeah.
uh, probably not as much as you, and I don't even know how much you care about that fight.
I truly like, I mean, I'm focused on like paying bills and like where my direction is, where I'm going. I mean, it's a convenient fact when I learn what the result of that is.
Yeah, I mean, wait, because I'm just confused about with the time difference. Like, so that'll be like noonish, or I assume Eastern time, or whatever your time is. I mean, boxing. The Zone has a lot of a lot of content. So I don't know how down bad I am to watch that. You know, I think I think I might just go play with my kids and catch that on the replay.
Yeah, it's like kind of like, do you have hobbies or a family? that's kind of where that is.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Callum Simpson. I assume he's going to be the underdog. Williamson. I think I actually remember I learned about that first fight. I don't know if it was from one of your stories or I was editing someone's story on that, or it might have actually been one of the British guys. I remember. No, it was actually yeah, it was one of the British guys. I was editing that story, and I'm like, oh, this sounds like it was a pretty good fight, and I wound up watching it. Simpson, kind of ran into a reality check. So I mean, and I watched it back. It was one of those fun, sloppy kind of situations where a guy comes from behind. But yeah, you know, the what they say. What do they say? When you win the first fight, whoever wins the first fight usually wins the second fight by a bigger margin. I don't know that's going to be true here, but we'll see.
Well, I'll tell you a story about Jai Tucker, who's one of my favorite fighters. And Jai Tucker, I was at the Palms, and my girlfriend, who's laying on a bed right across from me right now, she's actually waving at me right now. We were in a very similar situation in Vegas, and I was staying at the Palms, and we were at the Orleans Hotel. And Jahai Tucker was fighting Troy Williamson. And I remember I ate at a certain place because when I'm on the road, I'm scared to eat. So I'm like, okay, I'll eat where everyone's eating because I'd gone to a place with very high profile people. And it's like, okay, these high profile people eat here. One of which being Sam Garcia, who that probably won't mean anything to anyone, but
Sam
it'll
Bam Bam
mean a lot
Garcia.
to Sam Garcia. Which one?
That's Sam Bam Bam Garcia.
No, it's not. It's not him. It's Sambo. It's Max Garcia's son, but it
Oh, I thought
won't
it was
mean
the fighter from back in the day.
no. It won't mean much to most people. But I was like, okay, I'll eat at this place, and I go to the lobby, and I remember Jahai Tucker was eating at the place, and he literally was wearing the outfit he wore to go to the fight, and he told me not to be worried for his fight, and he told me he was gonna run at him, and he literally ran at Troy Williamson. And Jahai Tucker is one of my favorite American fighters, and no one genuinely cares besides like me and a few people. And like the fact that Callum Simpson is like getting a main event fight against a guy who Jahai Tucker just like beat the absolute crap out of just annoys me. Honestly, like I want Troy Williamson to beat Callum Simpson just to destroy a little bit of British boxing because it's like it kind of, let me just go on a rant here. Pierce O'Leary getting knocked out by Mark Chamberlain is not a good fight. That's like a battle of two guys going like, "Hey, let me show you how tough I am. Hey, laddie, let me show you how tough I am." It's not a good fight. A good fight is like strategy and all this. So I feel like I personally want to see Troy Williamson beat Callum Simpson so then we can just kind of get back to an even playing field where people are not as delusional.
Yeah, no, I feel you on that. I mean, Jahai Tucker, I actually got to spend a little time around him because he trains at Cops and Kids, or at least he did. I don't know if he's training there now, but Cops and Kids in the city. So I would have some of my boxers spar with him, and if you just come straight in on him, like he could box your ears off. Really, really smart boxer. And I was at his fight in Brooklyn when he just beat what's his face, the Dominican guy. Yeah, I pointed him. I mean, I have more respect for Jahai Tucker and that whole crew over there because whenever I want to bring a guy and find out if he's for real, I'll have him spar some like Jahai Tucker or some of these other guys. They have some like world championship level guys. Bruce Carrington doesn't live there anymore; he lives in Vegas. But um, when he was over there, he was one of those guys. He was one of those gut check guys. Yeah, no, for real.
Okay, so now we're down to the logistics part of this podcast. The Good Fight 12.substack.com. It's really phenomenal. You get the best boxing writer you've ever seen in your life. $10 a month. That's all it takes. You get to see like pretty much phenomenal storytelling all you can see. Go to the YouTube. Good Fight 12 on YouTube. Get really fascinating interviews. It's like cheating. You don't even have to pay for it. You can just go to YouTube. Ryan, where can people follow you and get all that fascinating information about yourself?
You can follow me, obviously at the Good Fight. When I write something that's good, I usually put it there. I'm on Instagram, Twitter. Uh, you know, I mean, for the most part, you're gonna see me just playing the bass, but sometimes I'm doing reporting. Um,
Dude,
and
play the bass. Plug the bass in, bro. Like I'm tired of this. You're not doing the gimmick. Plug the bass in. I want some smoke, babe. What do you want? I want smoke on the water. We want, dude.
that's
You're
such
not
an easy
doing.
song to play. That I was like, dun,
Yeah,
dun,
plug the
dun,
bass in.
dun,
Come on, give us some
dun,
views. This is gonna give us at least 5 more viewers. Plug
dun.
the amp in. Just do it at a low res and give us smoke on the water.
N- Next time, I mean, if we next time if we get up over 20 viewers can concurrently,
We'll get 20 views and
then
we're gonna get smoke on the water.
we
Okay.
get some smoke on the water. I mean, but then yeah, no, I also have NJ Boxing News, which .com, which is a site that I own. If you really want hyper local amateur and professional news in New Jersey, I basically just write about all the people that I see at the gym, because no one else is going to write about them, because New Jersey is unfortunately New York's step cousin, whatever. And no one really cares about New Jersey except for like me and a couple other random nerds. But yeah, that's where I'm at. And also, if you want to really see me, I'm at the store a lot, so you might see me there.
Okay, so tell us what store you're at. Like give
Um,
us like street signs and all that stuff.
the Wawa, you'll see me at the Wawa a lot.
But like the cross section and stuff, there might be some people that wanna know.
Which
And
one is?
what's your Wawa? What's your Wawa or
Oh, I get the meatball sub. Yeah,
is
no
there
less.
like a special order to it? Like is
I
there
just I go to the screen. I get that meatball sub. I sometimes I always with provolone because I'm half Italian, and I fucks with the provolone heavy. But yeah, the provolone. They when I walk into the Wawa, they say? They say, you know what? Today's a terrible day to be a meatball.
no worry about high cholesterol or anything? Like you're not fighting that or anything. You're like, all right, I'm going all in.
Listen, man, if I'm gonna eat, I'm gonna eat. You know what I mean? It is what it is. I'm from New Jersey. I don't do any of that fancy shit. What is cholesterol? Uh,
Okay. And then in the comments, watch let's see. Bit concerned that both men oh wait, bit concerned Aletheia's resume is trash. His opponent was 19 and 33. Simpson will box him. Ryan, to finish this out before I give you your social media, give me your five favorite because I know you're a music guy. Give me your three favorite music albums that
oh,
you've heard.
oh, that's a really good question. Jim Blossom's "Miserable New Experience." That's got to be up there. Um, that's a really that's one of them.
Well, I'm
Um,
in I'm in the business of good questions. That's
uh, Harvey Danger, believe it or not, "Where Have All the Merrymakers Gone?" That's such an underrated album. People only know them for the Flagpole Sitta. Believe it or not, that's like one of the worst albums, one of the worst songs on that album. They have so many good songs. Phoenix TX, Lechuza. Actually, right here is a Phoenix TX autograph poster on my wall. That's one of my favorite bands. Wu Tang Clan, 36 Chambers. That has to be up there too.
no, bro, we can't. No, 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 no. You're cheating the game. I said three albums.
Oh,
We can't.
three. Oh,
We got three. It's
Yeah.
3. If you go 4, you die.
Well, then,
3
cut off the Wu
albums.
Tang. I mean, it's gonna sound weird, because cut off the Wu Tang. That's one of the best albums of all time. But that might, if we're talking about just what Ryan Sunglia listens to, yeah, those are probably him right there. That Phoenix TX album, Lechuza, Harvey Danger album, which is actually the first album I ever bought with my own money. And what was that first one I said?
I have no friggin' idea because I am so out of my mind in Utah.
Well, then fuck it, put the Weezer Blue album up there then.
Okay, there you go. And where can people find you on social media?
Instagram at Ryan Sungalia. I don't call it X. What the fuck is that? It's Twitter at Ryan Sungalia. How you doing?
And Ryan's one of the most important boxing people you'll ever meet. This is a good fight, and thank you guys for tuning in.